Welcome back. The University of North Dakota is taking part in some groundbreaking research in the fight against COVID-19. They are now testing applications for drones to fight pandemics. So joining us now, we've got the Executive Director of the Research Institute for Autonomous Systems, Mark Askelson. Mark, thanks so much for joining us. Fascinating project. So kind of just give us the 30,000-foot view, pun intended, of what you guys are doing and what kind of data you're looking to get.
Sure. Thank you for having me on. The real question here is how can you use autonomous systems to work challenges like we're seeing right now? We got a team together to say, how would you use unmanned aircraft in these types of problem sets? And there's several different things we did, several different use cases. One would be delivery of things like medical supplies or anything you might need in these situations with unmanned aircraft. Another would be this idea of remotely trying to sense people's temperatures to see if anybody's ill. That's one you have to be very, very careful with, of course, because we always want to maintain people's privacy. And then the other use case is this idea of trying to spray some sort of disinfectant. And so we looked at all of those. We also looked at, or are looking at, ways we can use some of the technologies we've been developing in the state, leading with, involving beyond visual line of sight. So we're really trying to figure out how we could use these together to help with situations like this one.
Yeah, talk about that temperature one. I've heard that a few times. It sounds interesting. So would a drone kind of come down and have a tool that would just check your temp and then fly away, or how would that work?
Right. So the idea, very simply, what we did is we didn't actually fly with the thermal sensors. We had people who are participants, in other words, people who are helping with the project, stand off at different distances to see how effective a tool like that might be. Certainly, that is something that we are interested in to the point where it will help society, but you have to be very careful about privacy concerns, and others have actually been looking into this idea as well. And people have pushed back because they're concerned about their privacy. And the last thing we want to do is intrude on somebody's privacy, but certainly these are thermal sensors. So, people are looking at these even in applications, not with a pandemic, but say if you're looking at things like taking care of your cattle and you're worried you might have, some sick cattle out there, you could use this to identify cattle with elevated temperatures, things like that.
It's interesting. I've talked to cattle ranchers that talk about the coronavirus. So interesting app there. What kind of drones are you using? There's been some stuff in the news lately about, I guess, a company called DJI or something like that. What kind of drones are you using for this?
Right. So probably the one that's most interesting here is the idea of applying some kind of disinfectant. And so for that, we've been using something called an HSE UAV V6. And so that's an American-owned company, and of course, what they're trying to do is enable spraying of crops with such equipment, because there's great opportunities to just become more cost efficient with how we apply chemicals to crops, right? So that's what was used. We also explored delivery of goods and services, but I don't have the model number of the bird we flew for that one.
So is this something too? I mean, I'm thinking about spraying down and disinfecting areas, and you've got those sort of automated vacuums now. Is it something you could have a drone come in and spray and disinfect every single inch of an indoor place as well, or?
Right. So, it's a great question. Can you fly these indoors? And the answer is yes, of course. If you're indoors, you're not having to take on or worry about FAA regulations. So outdoors, of course, that airspace is regulated by the FAA, and their mandate is safety. Thankfully, right? We have the safest aviation system in the world because of the FAA. And so everything that we did in our tests absolutely aligned with FAA rule sets. But if you're indoors, it really comes down to who owns that property. But regardless of, if you get permission from them, you still have to be thinking about things like, am I too close to people? Do I want to be spraying when people are indoors? We as a team have looked at what type of disinfectant could you use, something non-toxic to people, something that's not going to drift, something that's not going to cause problems, things like that. So that's a big question in this research, just so you know. But yes, you could spray this indoors. One of the things you hit on, one of the things we're looking at is what kind of spray patterns produce maybe the best coverage. And, there's different variations, of course, and you can get different nozzles and different droplet sizes and things like that. That's part of the question set that we're working to answer.
Fascinating. I got about a minute left, Mark, so I'm curious, you've been talking about some of the tests. So what tests have you done up to this point so far, and what's been, how do I ask, like what data has jumped out to you the most and go, that was interesting, didn't expect that. But...
Sure. So we're early on, and the project runs into the summer. But so far, we've flown this to explore this idea of delivering medical equipment. So we've done that. We've also flown to do the spraying piece. Now the thermal piece we did, off of a bird, so on the ground. And to be honest with you, part of my background is meteorology, and so the one that really jumped out to me is the spraying piece, because there's a lot of different variables that go into that. And then you look at how good is your coverage on the ground when you spray. So all of them are really interesting.
It really is. Mark, thank you so much. We'd love to have you back as you guys get more and more data, okay?
Oh, thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Have a great day. Enjoy this beautiful weather. Probably a good day to fly some drones. So, all right, stay with us. We got much more coming up right after this.